in a country where you have the human right of property, you will have proper freedom because it allows the people to design their life as they want. And unfortunately, the housing crisis, which we do face all over Europe, leads to political action which often makes the property right smaller. And that sounds, in the first place, nice for all the tenants, but in the long run, it is the wrong decision for both the tenants and the owners.
To je neka intervencija koja upravo služi da ljudi koji ne mogu da izađu na tržište, koji neće otići u privatni sektor, da im se pomogne da dođu do nekog povoljnog zakupa. To naročito važi za mlade ljude koji imaju i manje plate i, ne znam, formiraju porodicu. Sad je situacija takva da jako mnogo plaćaju, verovatno. Negde ako hoće da imaju neku lokaciju da budu u nekoj lokaciji koja je blizu nekog posla ili da ne moraju toliko dugo da putuju, da troše novac, da idu, ne znam, na periferiju skroz. Znači, mora da bude negde povoljnog zakupa i po centrima gradova. Znači, to mešanje države, to je opet pogrešna percepcija. Znači, sve u kapitalizmu to važi. Znači, vi imate zaista, ključna stvar jeste stambeno tržište, ali stambeno tržište je, stan je, što se kaže, specifična roba, to se kaže fiksirana, heterogena, i onda se tu pojavljuju devijacije, znači različite, i tu sve države i kapitalističke vrše korekciju tržišta.
The real reason for the difficulties that have appeared recently in tenants trying to find houses, at least in Greece, they're not because there is an expansion of Airbnb activity. It's mainly because at least 51% of houses in Greece were built back in the 60s. So those houses in big blocks of flats are older now than half a century. And they need extensive renovation, a very costly one, in order to get back into the market.
Until 10 years ago, the rent control in Germany was based on a mixture of protection of the tenants, but also allowing the property owner, the landlord, to adapt the rent according to his economical needs. That was about 10 years ago by Angela Merkel demolished. And ever since then, the level of the rent is only focused on the situation of the tenant. And that means it is not possible anymore to maintain buildings on the long run. Buildings are not maintained, they are not improved. And what we see is that many private people sell their apartments because they can't afford to rent them out anymore.
I najveći problem što se donose povremeno samo ad hoc mere. Iako smo mi imali neki pokušaja negde od 2005. da se uvedu neke sistemske mere, ključni problem i osnovna karakteristika zbog čega su one uglavnom neuspešne je to što se ne uradi prethodna analiza stanja da se tačno identifikuju problemi. Subvencionisanje stambenih kredita svojevremeno, to je bila mera, a to su mi u Ministarstvu finansija jednom prilikom i priznali, koja je u suštini pomagala jačanju finansijskih institucija, a ne građanstvu. Ona je imala efekta prve 2 godine i to je bio kraj, jer vi kad pogurate efektivnu tražnju i ljude na tržište, pojavi se veća potražnja, a ponuda relativno mala, nekvalitetna, kako god, i cene stanova skaču. I tu su već nakon 2 godine su cene stanova pojele faktički taj efekat subvencija.
It's very simple. When you have a demand for housing, which is always increasing since our economy is getting better all the time, and since you have a declining supply because of the age of the existing building stock. When you have this inequality between offer and demand, prices go up, and nobody can do something about it if we don't restore a balance between these two.
Well, the rent control will usually affect the owner from one side, giving relief to the tenant, but there will be no help for the owner on the other side. Because obviously what makes housing more expensive is the price of energy, the price of gas and oil, the price of actually living in that building.
Tri ključne stvari su za stambenu politiku. Jedna je sistem stambenog finansiranja, javnog stambenog finansiranja. To je bitno da bi se ispravile nepravilnosti na stambenom tržištu. Znači, mi podrazumevamo da imamo stambeno tržište. Kogod može izaći na stambeno tržište, on izlazi. Međutim, imate jako mnogo domaćinstava koja mogu uz neku podršku čak i na stambeno tržište da izađu. Mi to ne radimo, jel? Druga stvar je jačanje kapaciteta za realizaciju programa, jer mi smo uništili skoro sve naše kapacitete, nažalost. I treći bitan element ili aspekt te stambene politike je zemljišna politika. Ona je ključna. Znači, ona isto nije sistematična. Donose se zakoni, menjaju se, prethodno se ne uradi nikakva analiza šta bi trebalo raditi ili da se izvrši kontrola nakon što se neke mere sprovedu, da li je to dobro, nije dobro. Ali ta tri aspekta su ključna u stambenoj politici.
Airbnb in Greece, and especially in Athens, and especially in Thessaloniki, in the old centers, flourished not in apartments, houses mainly, but in old offices, abandoned because of their age, which no one could use, old warehouses, old factories, and old commercial use buildings in the center of the cities, abandoned by the time. They were bought during 2010, 11, 12, 13, during the crisis. They were bought very cheap, and they were transformed into fantastic Airbnb dwellings, which are not suitable for families to stay because they're only for one room and a toilet. They're in the center of the cities, in commercial areas where no family is living, like in the commercial triangle of Athens.
Svi kažu prodaju se stanovi. Da, prodaju se stanovi, ali se pojavljuju jedni isti. Znači, mali broj njih koji drže u rukama veliki broj nekretnina, u želji i nadi da će to moći da prodaju skuplje, normalno. To je poenta. I sad to stoji kao zarobljeni kapital. Znači, niti je dobro za ove koji ne mogu da izađu na tržište, nije dobro ni za ove koji idu i kupuju. Šta je tu problem? Poreska politika, normalno. Ona mora da se menja. Mi sad imamo trenutno Beograd kao nefunkcionalan grad. On je prevelik, a nije dobro, znači ekspandirao je. Imate suburbanizaciju, znači prazne vam se centar. Uglavnom vam tu ostaju stariji ljudi ili neko ko nema drugog izbora. Većina ljudi to čak prodaju, odlazi negde na periferiju, dovoljno da ima neku dobru konekciju i to se upravo i dešava.
We have examples every day from apartments who their tenants have lived there for the last 20, 30 years. And when they leave the apartment, especially pensioners, the apartments are in such a bad shape that no Greek family can support to pay all this money which is needed for the renovation in order to get them back in the market.
Na primjer, neko ko ima višak stambenog prostora. I to mogu da budu objekti ne baš u centru grada, ali na nekim obodnim delovima grada. Ima višak stambenog prostora, ima problem sa energetskom efikasnošću. Država mu, odnosno lokalna samouprava mu da sredstva, povoljan kredit ili čak i delom nepovratna sredstva, da on izda stan pod određenim uslovima određenoj kategoriji ljudi. To još jedna stvar, znači to nije nešto što bi koristili samo socijalno ugroženi. Naprotiv, socijalno ugroženi trebaju da idu u stanove u javnoj svojini, jer tu mogu da se postignu najpovoljnije zakupnine, dok ove srednje dohodovne kategorije treba da se usmeravaju ka ovakvim oblicima stanovanja i to je moguće.
Greek government is trying to intervene. Due to the efforts of the Hellenic Property Federation, POMIDA, which I am the president, we managed to reduce the middle tax factor from 35% to 25%, which is very crucial for people owning more than one apartment, this tax relief. But mainly, the government has intervened by accepting our proposal that every house which has been empty for more than 3 years, and every house that has been in the Airbnb at least for 1 year, if it turns to long-term permanent residence rental market, it will have 3 years income tax relief. This was put in the law last year in the wrong way. They are fixing it now. And according to the new law, we will see thousands of houses which are empty. Since the state does not have the money to subsidize their renovation, it will be indirectly subsidized by avoiding to pay income tax for 3 years.
Rent control looks good for the tenant, but it puts enormous economic pressure on the owner, which is not solved, and thereby the problems of the owner become, on the long run, problems of the tenants. And the tenants will see after a few years there is less flats which are free to be rented. The quality of the flats is getting poorer and poorer. The building have a less good quality. So on the long run, housing will go down, and that's why we cannot support this.
Pa to kod nas u zakonu postoji, ali ja volim da kažem, neće ljudi čitati zakon. U zakonu postoji mogućnost da subvencionisanja zakupnina za one kojima je zakupnina prema njihovim prihodima prevelika, tako da on plati nižu zakupninu samom zakupcu, a subvencija mu dođe od države da ta zakupnina, to što se plaća prema zakupcu, da bude relativno, ajde da kažem, da on može da ostvari prihod. To postoji. Postoji ograničenja. Znači, ne možete vi sad da kažete mi ćemo da subvencionišemo u centru grada luksuzni stan površine od 200 kvadrata. Mislim, nekome, bilo kom domaćinstvu. I mi u zakonu imamo ograničenje, znači, za stambenu podršku, mi to tako sada zovemo.
Also, state is intervening by running programs for low interest loans for families which want to buy a house. Also is running a program to finance low income house owners who have one house and they want to rent it out to finance up to 60% of the cost of renovation on the term that after that they will rent it out at least for 3 years. So the efforts of the government are here and we expect much better results.
Spekulacije sa zemljištem, to nije naša specijalnost samo. Znači, to je opšta stvar. Ta gentrifikacija se dešava i po zapadnim zemljama i to vrlo intenzivno. Kod njih neki investitor utrči u neku zapuštenu oblast, ubaci pare, izbaci one ljude koji su živjeli relativno povoljno, rasturi im to susedstvo, jel? Tu cene skaču, oni moraju čak i da neće, oni moraju odatle da beže. Recimo, Britanci to imaju i kod njih može da se desi da je sad već problem toga da oni nisu na pravi način odredili ova ograničenja i da su te subvencije samo rasle. Znači, pa onda to izaziva, na primjer, problem. To vam pričamo o socijalnom, ono što se zove socijalno ili i priuštivo stanovanje, kako god ga zvali.
Those who buy these apartment blocks are now international companies, and they don't have any interest in the citizens, in the cities, in the people, or in the country. And this globalization of the German property is a very, very negative move. So that is why we think it is very important that the citizens itself, the people who live in a country and in a city, are the owners of the building because they know where they live and how they can improve the city and the building.
I imate dobar film, zove se Push. To pogledajte. Znači, to je radila specijalni izvestilac UN-a za stanovanje Leilana Fari. Pogledajte to, pa ćete onda da vidite kako to izgleda. Znači, recimo u Londonu Kinezi kupe neke nekretnine, nekretnine stoje prazne, zvere prazne. S druge strane, imate ljude koji nemaju gde da stanuju, bukvalno, koji su izbačeni na ulicu. I to je nešto što je globalni problem. Sad je to eskaliralo u svim ovim poremećajima i sad se shvata tek da država nije završila posao stanovanja.
Some interventions are fine and there is some good regulation. For example, that as a property owner you are obliged to take care that your building is not collapsing, that stones are not falling down on the heads of the people walking by on the pedestrian. But the rent control, which is only seen from the point of the tenant, will make it impossible to keep a building. And that means nobody would like to invest anymore into buildings in a state or a city, and that is bad for the people who actually live there.
Historically, Emperor Diocletianus, back in 310, if I'm not mistaken, had tried to do this by imposing an edictum, de pretis rerum venalium, a law for the prices of the goods in the market. He fixed the prices for everything. He said this will be the prices, and anyone who does not obey to this, the penalty will be death. So he tried, and he failed by destroying the whole economy of the Roman Empire. You cannot fix prices. You have to correct the factors which formulate the prices. You have, in this case, to increase offer, since the demand is increasing for housing, not only because people is getting a little more money, but also since in Greece we have a divorce rate raising up to 38.5%, which means that from the couples that get married and have children, 38.5% they get a divorce. And when they get a divorce, they need a second house to house the member of the family which will go out of the family. This is one of the social reasons which makes things worse.
Imate još jednu mogućnost koja je dobra i mislim da bi ona trebala da se pojavi u nekom trenutku, to je stambeno zadrugarstvo. Stambeno zadrugarstvo, kada ga uspostavite, ono ima čak novi model koji se pojavljuje, to su zadruge za stanovanje u zajedničkoj svojini. Znači, ne dolazi do kako da vam kažem, do prometa zemljišta, već zajedno kupe zemljište, izgrade objekat i žive u stanovima po mnogo povoljnim, finansijski mnogo povoljnim uslovima. Zakupnine su manje, maksimalno su uključeni u ceo proces utvrđivanja zakupnine. Znači, tako nešto bi trebalo forsirati. To je kod nas zatrto isto.
I guess that Serbia can get many lessons from what is happening in the European Union today and in Greece today. Greece has a free market, and only a free market can guarantee in the long term the interests of both property owners and tenants. But Serbia has still to solve the problem of property restitution. It's a crime, it's a shame, actually, that this problem has not been solved yet. Every country has to respect the human right of property, which is internationally recognized, and has to respect the property right of its citizens. Any country who wants to have foreign investment from other countries, from citizens of other countries, must show to the world that they're respecting the property right of its own citizens first.
I would promote all of the time that a government should try and make it possible for all the citizens to get into their own apartments and in their own houses. Because somebody who's the owner of an apartment or a building has a big attachment to that house or to that apartment and will take care of it. And people will take care of their surroundings and their neighborhood. So owning property is a strong element to attach the people to their neighborhood and to their neighbors. So it's good for society, and it's always a goal to work for. So if a country wants to prosper and to develop positively, property is a core element.